The house at 14 Maple Street smelled like toast and laundry. It was the kind of suburban home where neighbors knew each other's routines. The newspaper tossed at the doorstep, the recycling bin dragged out on Wednesdays, the sound of a lawnmower on Saturday mornings. Lily Harper was 7 years old and small for her age, all knees and laughter. She liked frogs, purple socks, and arranging seashells on the windowsill like tiny citizens of some private kingdom. On that Tuesday morning, she wore a faded yellow dress with a sunflower patch on the pocket and a crooked bow on her head because she had insisted on it. Tom Harper, Lily's father, was making breakfast. He worked nights at a shipping yard. Tired hands, careful smile, and he moved through the kitchen with a deliberate quiet. Sarah Harper, Lily's mother, was writing a grocery list at the table. She had the kind of steady calm that stitched a household together. Caring for Lily's orthodontist appointment next week, calling her sister on Thursday, checking the bank account. They were ordinary, and that ordinary made the later whole feel enormous. After breakfast, Tom kissed Sarah on the temple and ruffled Lily's hair. "Don't wander, okay? Play where I can see you." Lily nodded. Solemn children make promises like prayers. The park across the street was a small square of grass, a swing set, a low fence. Lily wanted to push the swings higher than anyone, to see if she could beat the wind. Sarah watched from a bench while Tom fixed a neighbor's fence 2 doors down. He'd promised, and good neighbors keep promises. The afternoon was ordinary. Other kids, other parents, a dog that barked once and was silenced. Lily ran, chasing a butterfly, then laughed, then ran toward a cloud of dandelion fluff. When she waved at her mother, it was the last time Sarah saw her. What happened in that half hour turned their lives into a new calendar before and after. Sarah blinked away a text and looked up. Lily was gone. The swing moved by itself. The sand in the sandbox had been scooped by small hands. A purple sock lay near a bush. Sarah called Lily's name. The park answered with distant laughter and the rustle of leaves. Tom was still 2 houses away. He came when Sarah screamed. They looked for 10 minutes, 20, 30. The police were called. The neighborhood woke up. Flyers went up. At first the world offered routine explanations. A child taken home by a well-meaning neighbor, a mix-up. But no one had seen Lily leave with anyone. No car had been reported. The swing set's chain hummed in the afternoon wind like a metronome, counting down something irreversible. Police cars multiplied their blue lights on Maple Street. Officers with radios and soft, practiced voices asked questions. Volunteers combed the nearby woods. Tom and Sarah answered the same questions until answers turned into a kind of carnivorous hope. The more they talked, the thinner the chances felt. A local news crew arrived before the sun went down. A sympathetic anchor used the Harpers' names as if closeness could help. Days behaved like sleepwalkers. Every night Tom walked the length of their street. He learned the routes kids took to school, the faces of people who walked dogs at dawn, the neighbor who mowed lawns at 8. "Did you see anyone?" he asked again and again. Answers were gestures toward the possibility of an honest mistake. "No, we're checking. We're so sorry." None of it filled the empty room where Lily's laughter once lived. Night made everything louder. The house's pipes, the refrigerator's hum, the absence of Lily's bedtime songs. Sarah kept Lily's pink toothbrush in her hand the first night. Tom took turns with her, but he was a man hollowed by grief who believed movement might find what sitting could not. He drove the block again and again. He printed more flyers. He answered social media messages with polite, guarded replies. Someone left a small plastic frog at their doorstep. No note, just the toy. And Sarah put it on Lily's pillow and cried until she was dry. The police kept working. Detectives took statements, ran through the family background. They asked hard, professional questions about enemies, debts, strange acquaintances. There were none. The Harpers were not people who invited trouble. They were, in the plainest terms, unlucky. On the 3rd morning, the call came. "Ma'am, we found something." The words were slow, carefully wrapped. The detectives' faces were soft but immovable. Tom and Sarah followed them to a small clearing by the river where the officers already had a perimeter. Lily's dress, stained at the hem, the sunflower pocket visible, lay in a plastic evidence bag. That was all. The body was nowhere to be seen. The discovery changed every hypothesis into its darkest version. The official language of the detectives, possible foul play, person of interest, were expanding the search, didn't contain the sharp actualness of their grief. For the Harpers, found had become a new vocabulary. It meant something was missing and something was broken. The case turned from missing person to homicide investigation. The community organized vigils. Candlelight flickered on Maple Street. Tom spoke, voice shaking, at a gathering under an oak tree. He promised they would not stop. He promised justice. But the next promise to break would be Sarah's safety. On a rainy Thursday, 2 weeks after Lily vanished, Sarah left the house to post another stack of flyers. Her face raw, eyes red-rimmed. She walked to the corner mailbox, the rain soaking her coat. Tom was at work. His shifts had stretched long. She never made it back. Sarah didn't return. Her car was found 2 days later in a shopping center parking lot. Windshield fogged, doors unlocked. A neighbor found her purse on the seat. A passerby remembered seeing her at a convenience store buying coffee. But after that, there were only gaps. The search for Sarah unfolded with the same grim efficiency as the search for Lily. The police moved swiftly. Search warrants, security footage checks, interviews. But the questions piled up faster than answers. On the third day, in the same way that Lily's dress had indicated a new, devastating certainty, Sarah's body was discovered in a rural stretch outside town. Medical examiners called it homicide. The phrase landed like a blow. Tom learned the truth in a place where men and women are trained to deliver bad news with compassion. A plain conference room with a pot of coffee gone cold. He heard the facts, time windows, probable causes, estimations in a monotone. Then he went home and screamed until no sound came out. Grief can make people see patterns where there are none. It can also sharpen a gaze until it cuts through lies. Tom's nights became an interrogation of the past. Who had been on the street the day at the park? Who had been near Sarah the afternoon she walked to the mailbox? He wrote lists. He pinned names to a corkboard. He cross-checked times. He watched the police's progress and felt both grateful and suspicious, as if they might miss the one small measure that would make sense of horror. A neighbor told Tom a detail. The same rusty pickup had been seen idling near the park the afternoon Lily vanished. Another volunteer said a man had asked too many questions about routines. The details were small, but grief collects small things the way a hungry person collects crumbs. Tom began to worry that the two incidents were not separate pieces of misfortune. He began to suspect the same shadow touched both events. Part 1 ends with Tom standing outside the police station at dawn, watching officers roll up their sleeves and the town stir. He folds Lily's small dress into a square and puts it in a drawer, near his father's old watch, as if objects could speak truer than people. The sun finds the edge of Maple Street and paints the mailbox gold. Tom turns to the board in his living room, to the list of names and the shadow he's starting to believe in. He makes a decision in the small hours. He will not be passive. He will look. He will remember. He will, in a way he had never been forced to before, hunt. A single line on his scrap of paper reads, "Find who did this." The church smelled of lilies and rain. Sarah's casket stood at the front, draped with white flowers. The same minister who had once baptized Lily now tried to thread words into comfort, but his voice echoed hollow. Tom sat alone in the front pew. His hands gripped the folded program, knuckles white. On the cover was Sarah's photograph, smiling in summer light, unaware of the storm that would come. Neighbors filled the pews. The community wanted to show support, but sympathy felt like a coat Tom could no longer wear. He kept hearing Lily's laugh under the minister's voice, as if his daughter and wife were standing just beyond the door, waiting to come back. But they would not. After the service, Detective Marlowe approached Tom outside in the drizzle. She was mid-40s, sharp eyes, voice steady. She told him the department believed the two cases were connected. The same suspect, likely. The pickup truck sighting linked both incidents. "Let us handle this," she said firmly. "You're grieving. You can't take this into your own hands." Tom nodded, but his mind was already racing. The detectives worked hard, but they carried too many cases. To Tom, Lily and Sarah weren't files, they were his whole life. And he could feel something the detectives didn't. The killer was still nearby. That night Tom drove. He circled the neighborhood streets until the clock ticked past midnight. The roads were slick, and street lamps reflected in long, broken streaks. He wasn't sure what he was hunting for. Maybe the rusty pickup, maybe just evidence that his suspicions had shape. At a gas station on the edge of town, he noticed a man in a dark hoodie staring too long at a missing person flyer taped to the window. The man bought a coffee, glanced at Tom, then drove away in, not a pickup, but a battered sedan. Still, the look in his eyes lingered in Tom's mind. He began writing descriptions in a small notebook, keeping track of every odd face, every strange car. The next morning, Tom visited the Martins across the street. He wanted to ask again about that day in the park. Mrs. Martin hesitated at the door. "Tom, maybe you should let the police do this. It's not good for you," he insisted. She admitted she had noticed the same rusty pickup weeks earlier, parked on the curb near the school bus stop. She hadn't thought much of it then. Tom's chest tightened. That truck was real. He wasn't imagining. The shadow wasn't just grief playing tricks. Tom turned his basement into a command center. The corkboard grew crowded. Lily's photo, Sarah's photo, the pickup, hand-scribbled notes about times and places. He printed a map and marked red pins where sightings had been reported. Sleep became a stranger. Coffee cups stacked near the desk. His sister called, begging him to rest. He ignored her. The basement smelled of ink and stale air. In the silence, he whispered their names like a vow. "Lily, Sarah, I'll find him." One evening, Tom stopped at a roadside diner. He wanted a meal, but mostly he wanted eyes on the road. The diner was nearly empty except for truckers and a waitress pouring endless coffee. Then he saw it, parked outside the window, a rusty green pickup. His breath caught. The driver, a middle-aged man with a scar on his cheek, sat at the counter. He stirred sugar into his coffee slowly, eyes darting toward the door. Tom studied every detail, the scar, the faded work boots, the truck keys on the counter. He burned the image into memory. When the man left, Tom followed him outside. The pickup coughed to life. Tom memorized the plate number before the taillights faded into night. The next morning, Tom brought the plate number to Detective Marlowe. She wrote it down carefully, her face unreadable. "We'll run this," she said. "Don't follow him again. That's dangerous." Tom clenched his fists. "You don't understand. He's the one. I feel it." Marlowe's eyes softened, but she repeated her warning. Tom left the station both relieved and restless. If the police moved too slowly, he feared the killer would disappear again. 2 nights later, Tom returned home to find his front door slightly ajar. Inside, nothing was stolen, but the corkboard had been ripped down, papers scattered across the floor. On the kitchen table sat a single seashell from Lily's collection. His blood went cold. Someone had been inside. Someone was warning him. Tom called the police, but they found no fingerprints. Marlowe told him to stay with family for a while. He refused. This was his home, Lily's home, Sarah's home. If the killer wanted to scare him, Tom would face him here. Tom began sleeping in short bursts on the couch with a baseball bat by his side. He jumped at every creak of the house. His job at the shipping yard slipped away. His boss told him to take time off. Bills piled on the counter. Friends avoided calling. One evening, while staring at the corkboard he'd rebuilt, Tom whispered to himself, "It's the same man. Lily, Sarah, both. He's circling me." His voice cracked. He realized he was no longer just hunting for justice. He was preparing for war. Part 2 closes with Tom standing on his porch at dawn, staring at the quiet street. The world looked unchanged. Children riding bikes, neighbors picking up newspapers. But for him, everything was different. He knew the killer had been inside his home. He knew the police might be too slow. He made a silent vow. If I have to catch him myself, I will. As the sun climbed, Tom's face hardened. The hunter inside him had awakened. Tom drove past the diner again, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles ached. It had become a habit, circling that stretch of highway where the neon sign flickered in the night. He told himself it was coincidence, a way to keep the routine alive. But deep down, he knew he was hunting. That night, the rusty green pickup was there again, parked in the shadows behind the diner, as if waiting. Tom slowed his car, heart pounding. He scanned the lot, searching for the scarred man. Nothing. The pickup sat silent, an old beast with chipped paint and dented panels. He parked down the street and waited. Hours passed. Finally, the man appeared, walking casually out of the diner with a to-go cup of coffee. The scar on his cheek caught the light from the sign. He got into the truck and drove off, taillights fading into the dark. Tom started the ignition and followed, keeping 2 cars back. The man drove toward the industrial district. Warehouses, chain-link fences, broken streetlights. Tom's mind raced. Was this where he lived? Was this where Sarah had been taken? He imagined Lily's small shoes in the dust, Sarah's voice calling for help. Rage pressed against his chest like a hot iron. But then, the man turned suddenly into a gated lot. The gate clanged shut behind him, and Tom had no choice but to drive past. He couldn't risk being noticed. He parked 2 blocks away and sat there for nearly an hour, staring at the silent lot. He wrote the time down in his notebook, underlining it twice. The next morning, Tom brought the information to Detective Marlowe. She looked weary, her hair pulled into a bun, her eyes red as if she hadn't slept much. "You're tailing him," she said flatly when he told her. "I had to," Tom insisted. "I found where he goes. A gated lot, warehouses. You need to check it out." Marlowe sighed. "We ran the plates you gave us. Registered to a man named Vincent Riker. He has priors. Assault, petty theft, burglary. But nothing that directly connects him to Lily or Sarah. We can't make a move without probable cause." Tom leaned forward, his voice breaking. "My daughter and wife are dead. He's connected. I know it. Please." Marlowe's tone softened, but her words were sharp. "Tom, you can't keep doing this. If you get in his way, you could ruin our case, or worse, get yourself killed." But Tom heard only one thing. They weren't moving fast enough. The nights grew longer. Tom returned again and again to the industrial district. He watched from afar as the pickup came and went. Sometimes Riker stayed inside the lot for hours. Sometimes he disappeared for days. Tom began sketching a schedule, piecing together patterns. One night, while watching from his car, Tom saw something that froze him in place. Riker opened the gate to let another man inside. Tall, heavy-set, carrying a box. They disappeared into one of the warehouses. Tom's pulse raced. Was it storage? Was it where he kept evidence, trophies? The thought clawed at his mind until he could hardly breathe. He considered calling Marlowe immediately, but another voice inside him whispered, "They'll take weeks to act. By then, he'll be gone." For the first time, Tom wondered if he should confront Riker himself. At home, the weight of grief pressed harder than ever. Lily's room remained untouched, her toys neatly lined on the shelf, her favorite purple socks folded in the drawer. Tom sat on her bed, clutching the stuffed rabbit she slept with every night. "I'm trying, baby," he whispered into the silence. "I swear I'm trying." Downstairs, the house still carried Sarah's scent. Lavender detergent, the faint trace of her perfume on the couch cushions. Tom pressed his face against the fabric, as if inhaling could bring her back. His grief no longer felt like mourning, felt like fuel. One evening, while Tom was preparing another pot of coffee, he heard the crunch of tires outside. He froze. Slowly, he looked out the window. A vehicle idled across the street, headlights off. It was the rusty green pickup. Tom's heart pounded. He ducked behind the curtain, peeking through a narrow slit. The truck sat there for several minutes, engine low, before pulling away into the night. The message was clear. "I see you too." The next day, Tom stormed into the police station, slamming his notebook onto Marlowe's desk. "He was outside my house. He's taunting me." Marlowe's expression hardened. "We're already looking into him, Tom. But you need to let us handle this. If you provoke him, we may not get another chance." Tom's voice shook with fury. "I don't care about the case. I care about my family. If you won't stop him, I will." Marlowe leaned forward, eyes blazing. "If you take matters into your own hands, you'll end up in a cell or a grave. Do you understand me?" Tom said nothing. He walked out, his jaw tight, his mind racing. That night, Tom armed himself. Not with a gun, he didn't own one, but with a camera, a crowbar, and the old baseball bat he kept by the couch. He told himself he wasn't going to act, just gather proof, evidence, something undeniable that would force the police to act. He parked near the industrial district and waited. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. Then, finally, the pickup arrived. Riker got out, unlocked the gate, and drove inside. The warehouse swallowed him whole. Tom waited 15 minutes, then crept out of his car. The gate had swung shut but not latched. He slipped inside, heart hammering in his chest. The lot was silent except for the sound of dripping water. The warehouse loomed ahead, a hulking shadow. Tom crept closer, gripping the crowbar like a lifeline. Through a grimy window, he saw light. Riker moved inside, pacing, carrying boxes, muttering to himself. Then, on a work table, Tom saw something that nearly knocked the breath out of him. A small pink hair clip, identical to the one Lily wore the day she vanished. His stomach turned. Rage surged. He fumbled for his camera, snapping a picture through the glass. But the flash went off. A tiny burst of light in the dark. Riker froze. His head snapped toward the window. For a terrifying second, their eyes met. Tom bolted. He sprinted across the lot, through the gate, into his car. His hands shook as he jammed the key into the ignition. Behind him, the warehouse door banged open, and Riker's voice roared into the night. "Hey!" Tom peeled out, tires screeching, his breath ragged in his throat. He didn't stop until he was halfway across town. At home, Tom collapsed against the front door, gasping for air. He stared at the camera in his hands, the blurry photo of the hair clip glowing on the screen. Proof. Finally, proof. But as relief washed over him, a new fear coiled in his gut. Riker had seen his face. He knew. Tom wasn't just the hunter anymore. He was prey. By the end of the week, Tom felt the pressure closing in from all sides. He could sense the killer watching him, circling closer. The police warned him not to interfere, but he had crossed the line already. His nights were sleepless, his days consumed by obsession. He was no longer simply grieving. He was spiraling. Yet even in that spiral, one truth rang louder than the rest. Sarah and Lily's deaths were not random tragedies. They were the work of one man. The same shadow stretched over both murders. And Tom knew it was only a matter of time before that shadow stepped fully into the light. The morning after the warehouse incident, Tom sat at his kitchen table staring at the camera in his hands. The blurry photo of Lily's hair clip glowed faintly on the screen. Proof. The kind of thing that could move the police, maybe even the courts. But all Tom felt was dread. He hadn't slept. Every sound outside the house made his skin crawl. Each passing car could be Riker's truck. Each shadow stretching across the blinds could hide a man waiting to finish what he started. Tom called Detective Marlowe as soon as the sun came up. He begged her to come to his house to see the photo, to take it seriously. She arrived an hour later, weary but attentive. She studied the camera, zooming in on the hair clip. "It's something," she admitted, "but it isn't enough. Could be circumstantial. He could claim it's not hers, or that he found it somewhere else. We need him caught with undeniable evidence." Tom slammed his fist against the table. "What more do you need? That's Lily's clip. Sarah bought it for her. I've seen her wear it 100 times. "I believe you," Marlowe said softly, "but the system doesn't run on belief. We need solid evidence, and if you keep confronting him, you could blow the case." Tom's voice broke. "If I don't, he'll kill again. Maybe me. Maybe someone else's daughter." Marlowe placed a hand on his arm. Then let us set the trap. But you have to trust me. Tom wanted to trust her. But that night he heard the pickup again. This time closer. He looked out the window and saw it parked across the street, engine idling, headlights off. He froze, heart hammering. He thought of calling Marlowe, but by the time she arrived, the truck would be gone. He thought of running outside with the bat, but the image of Sarah's lifeless body stopped him. Instead, he stayed still, hidden behind the curtain, until the truck finally rolled away. He knew then, Riker wasn't just circling. He was waiting, testing him. The following days blurred. Tom barely ate. He barely spoke. He kept watch from the porch at night, the bat across his lap, the photo of the hair clip on the table beside him. Every creak of the house sounded like an intruder. Every rustle outside sent him running to the window. Then one evening, as the sun bled orange over Maple Street, he found something on his doorstep. A small cardboard box. No return address. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside lay another seashell, identical to the ones Lily collected. Beneath it was a folded scrap of paper with a single line scrawled in blocky handwriting. Stop looking. Tom's breath caught in his throat. The shell clattered to the floor. His suspicion hardened into certainty. Riker wasn't just toying with him, he was promising more.